Quet is a computer scientist, a mathematician, a published author, an environmentalist, a preservationist, and of course, she founded the Gullah Geechee Nation in 2000. Today, I talk one-on-one with Queen Quet for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Queen Quet, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. Glad for dealing on it.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Needless to say, you are a published author, a computer scientist, a lecturer, a mathematician. You are a historian, a columnist, a preservationist, an environmental justice advocate, environmentalist, a film consultant, and of course, we know all about your Emmy, your award-winning nomination there. And of course, you are the artivist, which I love. I love that.
Yes, sir.
And of course, we all know that you are the founder of the premier advocacy or organization for the continuation of the Gullah Geechee culture and the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. So tell me, what's new, what's now with Queen Quet?
Wow, what's new and what's now? Well, you done cover a little bit of what's new. I have 4 Emmy nominations. That
right.
Thing's true. Okay.
Congratulations.
That I'm the first native Gullah Geechee at St. Helena. Like folks are saying, brought the Emmy to us. You brought the Emmy to us, you know. So that's a blessing right there. And then also what's new is we are gearing up right now for Gullah Geechee Family Day for this year, which will be the last Saturday in July, as it always is. And this year it'll be on St. Helena Island, right at the Historic Penn Center, one more again. So from noon to 3. And so those are some of the very, very new things. And you get the scoop. But I also have my first children's book that I created the illustrations for that's about to be released. So I'm about to release that on Saturday, coming up in Columbia. And then after that, that'll be kind of what they might call a soft release, right? And then the major release will be at Gullah Geechee Family Day. So those are some of the good new things that's happening. And the children's book relates to the environmental justice advocacy work that I do. So folks will get to Yeti more about who we are, but right from Ireland and how they can help pull up on them and things like that. So, chillin'.
Exactly, right. Why a children's book? Why now, Queen Quet?
Why a children's book? Why now? Because what I have found, unfortunately, especially in the Black community, is we are lowering our literacy rates, and that is not a good thing. Our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears, they put their lives on the line to actually read and write during chattel enslavement. And so what I found is that a lot of adults don't think about the fact that your children are going to do more of what they see you do than they're going to do what you say. Okay? So if you don't have books in your home, your child is not going to be someone usually that's going to come to love books. You need to have more than just a Bible with dust on it at the house. You need to have things that they can pull off the shelves, that they see themselves. That's what inspired me to start reading since I was 3 years old. Don't worry about how old I is now, but it's been a long time. Okay, I've been reading since I was 3. And so it's very important for this generation of people to become more literate, not reading just text messages, not reading the clickbait headline, but actually reading books. Trust and believe me, other people's communities, they are still buying a lot of books. That's why there are still these bestseller lists out here. So it's important that our children start reading early, and especially about the environment that they live in and about their own cultural communities. So that's why, so we chillin', the time been now, and I to do this show. Instead of talk about them, let's do them.
What's missing from these culture communities besides reading?
What else is missing is the fact that we have a younger generation that's not sitting with the elders anymore. Now, you and I probably can remember that you had to sit down when that elder people tell you for sit on your bunkie, you had to sit down any okay, or they big white send you for a switch. These children now tell me, oh, don't do nothing to my child, and then your child is out of control at 4. So what you think gonna happen at 14? What you think gonna happen at 24? Is because of the intergenerational learning and respect that our families had, that everybody in the family could go ahead and reprimand your child, chastise your child, and if verbal didn't work, Yeah, spanking worked on some people, and some people tell you that saved their lives. And so my thing is, I think that now we're not talking about abusing your kids.
Right.
And some people think that abuse only happens by putting hands on kids. No, it doesn't. There's a lot of psychological abuse happening to little children. I hear parents cursing out their little 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds. That would not have been acceptable, because the elders would have pulled you to the side, and they would have pulled that child from you and taken that child somewhere else where there was love and concern and focus, and making sure that child's homework was done, and that you knew that the homework was done because you helped them do it, even if you had to struggle to help, and that they were well fed, and not that they were in designer clothes, but that the clothes were clean and neat, and that they had clothes. And these are things that are vitally important. When I travel around the world, I see communities where I could cry, because you see that the children really, if you just give them a pencil, they are so overjoyed, because no one has given them anything. And it can be the smallest little thing that you give them, and they honor it and they cherish it. So what's missing in our families now is that honoring and that cherishing of whatever we have, and giving thanks to God for it first, but also honoring and cherishing our elders and our families while we have them, because we have a lot to be thankful for as Black folks, especially Gullah Geechee, that we can have multi-generations of us still together, still alive, still healthy, still in your right mind, because in a lot of cities, that's not happening. And so we are blessed. So we should thank God for that. And we need to bring that back into the family and read together.
Amen. In the name of Jesus. And Queen, as you just mentioned, some of those things I got when I was a kid. I got the broom, the belt, all that stuff.
Okay. All that.
Yeah. And it was out of love. People wanted us to be better, and we are better because of that.
Because of that. Mm-hmm. Discipline.
Discipline, exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
In these culture communities, what exactly are the children and even the adults are taking for granted?
Oh, they take it for granted that they have a culture. There are a lot of people who are Gullah Geechee who they won't come to an educational program that says it's Gullah Geechee. They'll come if we're doing jokes or we're doing a party, but they won't come if it's educational, because I done Gullah Geechee. So they think they don't need to learn anything else, when actually maybe one side of your family is Gullah Geechee and the other side is African American or Caribbean or from another part of Africa or Europe or something. That means you don't have a 100% Gullah Geechee knowledge of everything. There might be something from my family that I can teach you. Both sides of my family is Gullah Geechee. So I know the strengths one family has versus the strengths the other family had. So there are certain traditions and things that I found that the younger people say they never got from their grandparents or from their parents. So they come on my channel, they come on your channel, they come on a lot of our social media, searching for those nuggets of culture. And so while the elders are still here, they can pass down those recipes and things like that. They like red rice and things like that. How to make that mac and cheese and things they throw them together. Or how to do that crab and thing when you had a crab. Y'all call them crab crack. We call them crab ball. How to make that frog no stew and things like that. You got to get that stuff while the people who really know how to do it, who have the collective consciousness, have it to pass down. So a lot of us are taking it for granted, like, oh, we know everything. Well, if you know everything, you're God. So I would like to know, how come you down here with the rest of us? What's going on? Okay? And so my thing is, we need to understand we can always learn more. And the big thing that we are also neglecting is what you and I both treasure, Black history. That we need to go to places, even they call it a staycation. Right. It's summertime. People can just go right there in the little country, right in the Gullah Geechee Nation, sure, and visit some Black historical sites. A lot of them are free.
Yes.
Even go to the markers. There are so many markers around Charleston that our people walk right by and don't even read it. And there's our story on there. A lot of us fought for those things to be there. So we need to go read our historic markers, go to our historic sites, and support Black businesses. Because the more we economically empower our community, the stronger our community will be, and we can sustain our families on our family compounds and then stay right here, because we'd have been here. We ain't have to grind away.
Oh yeah, and I'm always thinking about Georgetown, Andrews,
Yeah.
Savannah,
Yes.
Beaufort. You know,
Yes.
there's even down to Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, which is
Exactly.
not that far away, but
Right.
it's still part of the Gullah Geechee corridor.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Jacksonville to Jacksonville
yeah,
is the Gullah Geechee Nation. So y'all could pretty much just Google map and pick a point on the map, gas up the car,
yes,
pile up as many people in there as you can legally now. Don't act like it's a clown car. Get everybody with a seatbelt and then drive on down.
yeah,
And you can do day trips.
yes,
You ain't got to have hotel money and all of that.
right.
You can do like we used to do. Cook that good food I've been talking about a little while ago. Put that in a leaf bag or container or cooler and go on down the road with the family and have a wonderful day. Even a lot of our beaches, there was
Yes.
Remley Point,
Right.
there was Tree Breeze in North Carolina. There was all of these different places, American Beach, that were historic locations that our elders used to take us to in the summertime. And now some of those places have historical markers, they have kiosks, they have museums that we can go and visit and learn more about that time period and then reflect on it with your family. Spend some time and enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. I also think about Sullivan's Island too. That's where a lot of the Black history
Absolutely.
originated.
Yes, and that's where I was in school, is at Sullivan's Island. And many of us don't realize that 40% of all Africans enslaved in North America came through Sullivan's Island. So that's why now when people talk about Gadsden's Wharf, where we built, and I'm one of the founding members of the International African American Museum, right there where you are. The internet, the I am, it's not IAAM, it's I am. The I am that we built is hovering over Gadsden's Wharf. This was a place that after people were seasoned many times at Sullivan's Island, they were then brought there and then sold in the streets of Charleston, not just at Chalmers Street now. That was a later market, as they said, for black cargo, black gold, as they called us, but that was not the primary place. So you have all of these places that are right there, literally, that you can go to, that outside of museums, you don't have to pay a fee to go and see the marker at Sullivan's Island, which actually is the largest marker in the state of South Carolina. It's the largest historical marker. And so a lot of money went into that, a lot of time, a lot of focus to be able to bring that to that space. So anybody going out there would realize that that's the origin, especially of Gullah Geechee people, but of a lot of people of African descent across North America.
What more space, Queen Quet, do we need to actually tell our story?
I believe that we need more what people might call freedom schools. I feel that we need to get underneath the oak tree in different places, get on the porch, and be those places and spaces where that living story is told, especially from those who lived it. We still have a lot of iconic people that we are fortunate to have alive in our communities. Let's don't wait till the homegoing to then look and say, oh, this person did so much. Oh, I saw they gone. Oh, I didn't know they did all this. And then we want to put a markers then, or we want to name schools and things after them, and they gone and they can't see it. We need to sit with our elders, with our leaders, and focus on our stories so that we can then put out a plan for the future. If Hunter ain't know where Hunter did from, Hunter ain't going to know where Hunter going. So it's important for that Sankofa to take place, and places that are not considered institutions, but you can institutionalize where we educate one another. So it's very important for those in-person gatherings and for us to teach our story.
I hate to be redundant, but how do you institutionalize our story?
Well, there are a number of ways you do that. And it's interesting how that's changed over time, right? Because one of the things that people did is, of course, built schools, right? Our HBCUs are a pure example of that, a physical institution, creating the International African American Museum, the Penn Center.
Sure.
We now have the Reconstruction Era National Historical Park that started out as a national monument. We have those places that we look at as physical places to go, and we say, oh, this is an institution. American Beach Museum. It's an institution. But you institutionalize things also by making that the regular practice and then infusing the information into the other things you do. So we've even institutionalized making sure we have Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week. That has gone on since 2012 throughout the entire Gullah Geechee Nation, from the last Saturday in July until the first Sunday in August. And so it is now an institution. It is something that people look to come into, to be a part of, to make sure it's sustained. Those are all the factors that have to go into institutionalizing something, and creating and sustaining the institution means that you have to contribute to it. You have to be a part of it. You need to visit. You need to be an active member of it to make sure it continues to go on. And we do that, again, by bringing different generations of people together and people who have something that they want to give into it. And so they pass on the knowledge of its existence. And then another generation says, oh, that's important. We will make sure it continues also.
How do you sustain the Gullah Geechee culture 5-10 years from now?
You sustain the Gullah Geechee culture by continuing to live it, and by acting against those things that are not our culture. Because what is unfortunate in my 40 plus year journey fighting for Gullah Geechee culture and leading this charge through the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition is now, because the internet, and I'm a computer scientist, so I'm not anti-technology at all. But I need y'all to be clear. The use of technology should be a tool for the benefit and upliftment of our people, which means it should be used in a positive way, in an accurate way. There's enough people using it against us, and they always have. So we shouldn't be doing that. And so I've seen that people have been misleading people on TikTok, on Facebook, stating things that are really American and saying it's Gullah Geechee. And so that is not the way you live any culture out. And that's not the way to sustain a culture, because now what you're really doing is diluting the culture by saying that things that are not the culture are the culture. So we have to have more people that put out positive, accurate, uplifting pieces. Like, I know you go to the people, you find the actual people who are doing the work, and you bring them on Quintin's close-ups. And so you have to do research. You have to do your due diligence. And that's what I'm finding a lot of people are not. They're just like, oh, whatever, this popped up in my feed, and now I'm just going to buy into it. I'm going to share it. Yeah. No. You need to check the background. You need to check, like some might say, the pedigree. And when some of these people posting, they're not native Gullah Geechee just because they're black, or they're saying stuff, but that's slang. That's not Gullah. So we need to be very careful about that, because you will dilute the culture. And then you have other people who are financing the misleading information, so that now you don't have a sustained community, because there's no unity in your community. So that's why when we became a nation, it was to unify all of us from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, and to fight for our rights to our land, our language, our traditions, our businesses, so that the economics of Gullah Geechee culture came to Gullah Geechee people, not that it was just something to trend and one or two people do silly stuff, and then that just dilutes the culture, because then other people come in and say, well, I know what your culture is, and then I sell it to you. So that's not a good thing. We need to make sure that we fight for accuracy and respect in our community, and make sure that we unify and that we stand and fight together, so that we hold upon what God done blessed we with, because we be Gullah Geechee anointed people.
I just thought about Juneteenth when you were talking about, obviously, the culture and whatnot.
Yes.
Has the Gullah Geechee culture, in particular when it comes to Juneteenth, has that been commercialized in your opinion?
Absolutely it has. And what's extraordinary to me is that I remember Elder Carleytown, Minister of Information for the Gullah Geechee Nation. Yes, you've had Elder Carleytown on. And Elder Carleytown was the first person in South Carolina that said to me, hey, Queen, why don't you come to our Juneteenth? And that Juneteenth event had been going on in the city of Charleston for at least a decade at that point. And it was just a little group of us. It might have been 25, 30 people. That might have been all. And every year, Those brothers would be out there drumming. Many of them are ancestors now. The elders would be there, and they were teaching what Juneteenth is. They were drumming the drums of freedom, and they were making it clear that that is what Juneteenth is about, that it's about freedom. And Black people still have not fully gotten freedom in the United States. So you needed to understand that. They weren't drumming and dancing to entertain you. And now Juneteenth has become, I've seen flyers that I cannot even believe that anybody put out there to say Juneteenth on it. Because it's not necessary to do, I'm just going to say it plain, bunky shaking parties and call them Juneteenth. You can party anytime. You don't need to call it Juneteenth stuff. You also don't need to do a gospel concert and call it a Juneteenth concert, because June is also Black Music Month.
Right.
So you can do any day, anything with songs and music in celebration of Black Music Month in June. You don't need to call it Juneteenth. And we have all this talent out here. Let's keep everything together and then go into events and then find out it's just about food, it's just about music. Nobody gets up there and teaches what Juneteenth represents and what it can be for us besides a day off now. Okay, besides a federal day off from work. That should be a day of service. And that service should be toward getting our freedom as Black people. We got to continue to fight on for our freedom.
What else do we need to get away from as far as freedom in order to get freedom?
That's a good one. I like that one, Quintin. What do we need to get away from? We need to get away from only promoting that which is comical. There's a time and a place for everything. So believe me, I love balance. I love laughter and joy in certain places at certain times, but we got to also couple that with seriousness and some focus. So we can't always want to run to the comedian and then laugh all day long. We can't always want to run to the party. And what some people call party is not what I call party. Party for me is actually dance and dress up and you go to a dance. Some people call getting high partying. I don't agree, but that's what we need to get away from so that we can clear our minds and know that when we get into a space and someone is actually giving us some knowledge about Black wealth building, about Black land rights, about our water rights, about improving our health and sustaining our bodies, because this is the synagogue. This is the temple right here. And us gathered together, we make the synagogue. We are supposed to be the church. So we need to be that. And we can't share good light. Your light get dim if you don't have a healthy environment. And that has to start with the renewing of our minds. So you renew your mind by getting away from all these distractions, because that's what they are. They are set up for other people to commercialize and to get money from you. They don't care about you. You see what I'm saying? Their main thing is, this what you into? Well, I'll sell it to you. But now I'm taking your focus away from what would really matter, that you should be able to take your family land, or if you ain't got no family land yet, build up that money that you could have spent on that ticket going to that show, build up that money, and then get land. And then that we have a place that starts to build your wealth. And so that then on that land, you got that porch that I was talking about earlier, where one can sit with the grandma and with the children and all of that, and say, this shit we on. And you can learn each other about Black land ownership, especially in the Gullah Geechee Nation. That's our legacy. That's our history. And so we need to know what laws and what policies are out here that people are doing to try to take our stuff from us. We can't just get on the internet and complain they're doing it. You have to be of a clear mind to be able to do something against them trying to push you out, so that we stay here together. So it's very important that we get away from all the just, we want to be entertained and, joke all the time. We got to get serious sometimes and sit and focus.
I wanted to talk about that. I hope I can get you back on Quintin's Post Up soon to talk more in depth about this. But let's talk about it. Gentrification.
Yes, sir.
What is the state of gentrification?
The state, well, let's say this too. Let's add something else because a lot of times people want to exclude everything else and say gentrification. Gentrification and displacement are two different things. So let me explain that. When I talk about land ownership, if your family, let's say for instance, we could use John's Island.
Sure.
If John's Island, the way your family did from, and for generation they had 10 acres of property, now y'all ain't got none. That's displacement because you owned the land outright, and now by some means, whether it was taxation, whether it was violence and someone killed somebody and then got the property, because that has happened, all kinds of different methods have been used to disenfranchise the black community. So they extract your wealth from you. So now that is displacement because now your family got to go somewhere else and live. Now, if your family went somewhere else and lived, or your family never owned property, but you lived in an apartment, you paid rent to somebody else. Well, you own the building. So when the owner gets a deal or decides, I'm tired, I don't want to be in South Carolina no more, I'm going to sell. You don't get a vote in whether they sell or not because that ain't your property. That owner decides, I'm going to sell. Or, hey, wait a minute. You only been paying $500. People coming from cities, they going to pay me $2,500 for that same place you living in. So I decide when your lease come up for renewal, I'm not going to renew your lease. I'm going to let you go on and move out in 30 to 60 days. You find yourself a new place to live. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to renovate this place. I might, repaint the walls and redo the floor, whatever. Might fix a few fixtures in there, put in some new appliances. And now I'm going to charge $2,500 a month for the same place. You and maybe your mama had the apartment before you was paying $500. Now you got to find somewhere else to live. So gentrification is from Southern gentry. That's a plantation thing, right? So they come back to gentrify the neighborhood. And what happens? In every city I've been to, usually you don't see us there no more. Because the black community has such a massive disparity in the amount of wealth that we have versus other communities that a lot of times we can no longer stay where our families might have been for generations. But we have to fight both of those battles, gentrification and displacement in the Gullah Geechee Nation. And a lot of our urban centers, you mentioned Savannah earlier.
Right.
You got Savannah, you got both Jacksonville's,
right.
You have Brunswick, Georgia. Sure. You have Beaufort now is a small city, but it's a city. Right. Charleston, of course, right. Okay, is a major hub. You have, like you mentioned, Georgetown. Right. These are all in Myrtle Beach. Yes. These are all urban centers in the Gullah Geechee Nation, where gentrification is mainly the problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas on the Sea Islands, Wamala, Johns Island, St. Helena, all these places, displaced, Hilton Head, big example. Those are places of displacement. So what we got to do, let's go right back to what I said. Reclaim land. Purchase land. And especially try to purchase it outright, not with a mortgage. Because when you have a mortgage, the bank actually owns that property until you pay the mortgage. And if you miss your payments, that's when they foreclose. So you and I could go on into a whole thing. Because we need to understand, don't tell me I own my house and your name's not on that deed. Look at the paperwork. The bank's name is on there. If your name is on it, then you own the house. Otherwise, the bank owns the building. So I'm talking about when they used to have mortgage burning parties. There was a reason for that, because them people had worked that long and that hard and got out from under that bondage. So nobody could just come tell them they're going to take their stuff by foreclosure, displacement, or any of that. You have to fight all that. So the gentrification issue, I know, is a major one in Charleston. I come to Charleston now and I can hardly find my way around for all the new buildings being built in between all the old historic homes and all of that. And so we need to get in a place of wealth where we have wealth of spirit. I know we got plenty of that, but we also need to have wealth financially. And that starts with owning land, not just houses or buildings on lots. So we got to come back together one day, Quintin.
Sure.
A whole discussion about that.
Sure, absolutely. I know Zoom is only giving me like 5 minutes, But let me ask you this: what are those nuggets of disenfranchisement that you also see along the corridor that we just don't know about?
Wow. Yeah. Well, the disenfranchisement starts, of course, with land loss. It continues in terms of the lack of education, like people divest from putting money into Black community schools intentionally, whether that is K through 12 or that is at higher level colleges. So they disinvest from the community. So that disenfranchises our community because we don't have the same state of the art equipment at those places. They also disinvest from the institutions, like you mentioned, libraries are institutions, for instance. Maybe those are not available in your community and they're way somewhere else. Another thing is food deserts being an issue, creating a situation where the economic empowerment is not in that community and everything is way out of that community, so that somebody would have to travel to somebody else's community and then financially invest there instead of being able to do it right there around the block, down the block from themselves and feed themselves well. So there's a whole list of ways that our community gets disenfranchised. And even with health, fortunately in Charleston, we have the Medical University of South Carolina right there, MUSC, but not everywhere else has such an institution. And so if you don't have places dedicated to helping with the environmental health and then helping with the physical health, then we're always going to be in a bad position. And then we're disenfranchised even in that regard. Because again, we don't have sound minds and healthy bodies. We can't fight for all these other things so that we are enfranchised once again, like our ancestors were in 1862, 1863, and going forward when they bought land and said, this shall for we heirs, because we've been here and we ain't going nowhere tall. So it's important that we do that. It's important to have these kind of discussions on programs like yours. So I appreciate you a great deal, Brother Quintin.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. When you think about obviously the health facility that they don't have in other places like Hampton, Allendale, Orangeburg,
Right.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we financially invest ourselves as African Americans with gentrification and disenfranchisement involved?
Yeah, one of the things we should do is always, I do this around the world, wherever you go into, find a Black business and support them. I don't care if you gonna go in there with about $5 or $10. If 100 or 1,000 of us do that every day, that business can sustain itself and expand and then create jobs in our community, and then be able to educate our own people on how to run a business, take that money, reinvest it in land ownership, then reinvest in commercial property, and so on. And so these are things that we need to do on a consistent basis, and that's always an individual choice. Don't go in there talking about, oh, but this one $2 higher than if I go to this buckle store. Look here, they ain't a buy on that level yet. And your point is to invest in your own community like other people invest in theirs. So we need to start that. We need to also start going to our schools and volunteering and helping in there and making sure that our children feel empowered because they see their own people who are professionals in the field and they're reflected and they say, oh, I know that I can go into that. I can be the next Quintin doing close-ups. You see what I'm saying? I can do that next thing. And so we need to also be in there reading with our children, educating them, inspiring them, and then we can start to get them also to work these summer jobs as interns in these businesses we own and operate, and so that they know what to do. And then we create a perpetual cycle of this, and that becomes normalized in our community. And what? We institutionalize that behavior. So definitely that will re-enfranchise us. Yeah, we need to do that.
What's being normalized as Gullah that's actually American? I wanted to get back to you with that.
Wow. I see a lot of things that are statements that are only made in Charleston, and who know it is me, because I'm the head of state for the Gullah Geechee Nation. I go up and down, and I have been doing this work for 4 decades and almost a half now. Okay, so I can tell you, say for instance, busing. Busing is a term in Charleston. That's not a Gullah Geechee term. I noticed that somebody put in a book now that I'm reading, pickings for children. No, it's picnic for the children. So there are things that people are hearing on the internet and saying, oh, that's Gullah. And then they come up to me saying something. I'm like, that's not, I know you got that from Charleston. That's not Gullah. You can't go up and down the Gullah Geechee Nation, say that to elders and they know what you're talking about, because that's something that young people just came up with now. Okay. And then people don't realize we only have one flag in the Gullah Geechee Nation. Anything else is a banner. So when you see We Be Gullah Geechee Anointed People, that is our flag. That is the only flag. Nations only have one flag each. Okay, so there's things that people are seeing on the internet, and they see it one place, and then somebody will share that, and then you have 10 or 50 or 100 of them say, "Oh, that's all Gullah," and some stuff is not, and some stuff is, and so we need to be very clear. All of them thing ain't a we, because some of them children would have doing and thing like that ain't a we tall neither. Okay, and so we have certain things being normalized that are not Gullah. Okay, at all. And it's no Geechee Gullah, it's Gullah Geechee. Also, there shouldn't be a space between Gullah Geechee when you write it. It should be the slash. Why do I say that? Because I'm the one that started that. There was nobody else putting Gullah Geechee together when I started doing it. And I started it with the name of the first organization in the world to exist for Gullah Geechee culture, the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. So when we passed the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act, the slash was in it. You had a group of people who are largely academics and assimilated folks who decided, oh, we don't want to put the slash in there, we're going to put the space. But the space means division. And as a mathematician, I didn't use a dash because it looks like a minus sign, and too much had already been taken away from us. So God gave me the vision to put Gullah Geechee together so that no more socio-anthropologists and other people could mislead our people and say, Gullah is in South Carolina, Geechee is in Georgia on the island.